Charlie Kirk has passed away. Welcome aboard. So, we're going to have the obvious conversation here. It's the first time we've gotten together since Charlie Kirk has passed away. What are your thoughts?
It's sad. It's kind of shocking. I would say it's unheard of, but let's face it, it's happened multiple times in the past. It's interesting that someone who had no real political sway, no real pull, I mean, this wasn't some government official who was corrupting a military, this wasn't some third world country. This isn't something like that. This was a person who just basically had the same kind of setup we had, to be honest. I mean, a platform on social media to talk about their viewpoint. And he welcomed people to open a conversation. But he welcomed a conversation with people that had differing views. He thought that was the best way to bring about change. And it is. And somebody decided that an 85-cent round was the answer to their problems, not his problems, not the thousands of people that were there.
I think this is truly and seriously a fault of the Democrat Party. Not all Democrats, but the Democrat Party. Because they're going out there and they're calling people fascists. They're calling people Nazis. Well, then it's okay to kill them. And the Democrat Party, what's left of it, has become so radicalized, so intense. I don't know how people could justify staying in the party anymore. I mean, I get that people are not conservative, that maybe they're not moderates, maybe they're on the left. But at this point in time, what's left of the Democrat Party is just so extremist.
Yeah, I have trouble with that word fascist, that word, communist, Nazi, all those. And actually, I kind of got into it with a co-teacher a little bit. I'm in a group chat with a few other teachers, and we have conservatives, we have liberals. It's a good mix. We're all good people. And the statement was made. Well, he made a statement. Charlie had made a statement about sometimes freedom of speech. The Second Amendment was there. I can't remember the exact phrase, but it was something about the freedom of speech, and the Second Amendment was there. And so sometimes people have to die for the right to freedom of speech. And she had made the statement of, well, I guess he just proved his point. Well, and I got pretty grumpy right off the bat with that statement and kind of ended the group chat for probably another couple of weeks here. Where that kind of stems from is we could drive it all the way back to why we founded the United States. We came from England, Europe, and we came to America. And one of the first things we did is said, you can say anything you want here without freedom or without fear of repercussion.
Well, what bothers me about people who are turning around saying, oh, Charlie Kirk said this and that is so horrible. A lot of it's taken out of context.
It absolutely is.
Like we were talking earlier, and I said one of the things they keep saying is, oh, he said you shouldn't have empathy for others. And they cut off the quote right there. And I don't have the quote in front of me, but he said, what people should have is compassion. Because, and I'm paraphrasing here, complete paraphrase. Instead of just feeling what somebody else is feeling, having never been through that before, have compassion. Because if you have compassion, then you actually go out and you help them. And that was his point, but they'll play the first little bit of it and not the second little bit. What really bothers me about this is I'm seeing so much violence from the left. And I'm not saying there hasn't been somebody on the right to do violence, but you have 2 attempts on Trump. You have an attempt on Charlie Kirk. When's it going to stop?
It was more than an attempt.
So, well, yeah, absolutely. So how did your kids react?
I have a decent mix because of the type of class I teach, but most of my kids were either unaffected by it or they were in the case of, hey, this is wrong. Whether they agreed with Charlie or not, they felt it was wrong. I did have a decent number, a couple each period maybe, that were like, hey, I'm glad he's dead. And I'm like, did you even know him before this? No, but I know that he was for Trump. But I took about 3 minutes at the end of every period and I talked to the kids just a little bit, not necessarily specifically about Charlie Kirk, but about the act that happened and how it has happened before and how every time it happens, unless there's a complete outcry from both sides, everybody involved, every single person, you're just shredding the Constitution just a little more.
There's a lot of people. They're going online, they're spouting off, they're saying, I'm glad he's not here. I mean, they're saying such horrible things about him. They're
Yep.
saying horrible things about his wife, calling her a fascist, calling her a Nazi, and they're losing their jobs.
Yes.
What do you think about that? Should people lose their jobs over this?
No, and I can't remember exactly who said it, and the history guy might remember. But I want to say it was Franklin, but I don't think that's, or Jefferson, I mean, but I don't think that's right. But it was the right to swing your fist ends at the tip of my nose. You know, that I firmly believe in that. I may not like what people say, but they have a right to say it. But I also have a right to turn them off. So should people be fired for saying things? No, I don't think they should. Now, if they come across as hyper violent and they do it in a workplace, that is a different thing. But just saying, I don't like Charlie Kirk and firing him, probably not the best idea. I don't like Trump, firing him, not the best idea. I don't like Biden, firing him, not the best idea. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions. But in extreme cases where, you know, obviously this person needs to go to anger management type of problems, and this is just a symptom of the problem, I could see firing there. But even then, I mean, I'm a firm believer in just because I don't like what you have to say doesn't mean I can get rid of you.
You said something that just struck a chord with me. You said it's a symptom of something. And if I understand celebrating Osama bin Laden dying. I understand, celebrating the end of Hitler and the end of World War II, Stalin, Pol Pot, these kind of people. Celebrating a guy who talked, at that point, it's a clear and decisive mental disorder. It just, I don't understand how people could be this way. Like when the assassin meets his maker, I'm not going to celebrate. I'm going to think he deserved it, he earned it, but I'm not going to celebrate. I don't like the Clintons. I think they are god awful, terrible people. But I'm not, when it's time for them to go to heaven, if that's where they go, I am not saying I know for sure. I'm not going to celebrate. It's somebody's mom, it's somebody's dad. Even when somebody's on death row, that's somebody's family, even though that's the penalty that they earn. So, speaking of which, what do you think should happen to the assassin?
Well, actually, I do want to add to that, and then we'll get right back to your what should happen to him. I have learned, and I have spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I thought I was raised a certain way, and I thought everybody was raised that certain way. And then my mind shifted, and I realized, no, everybody wasn't raised the way I was raised. And then it shifted even further, and I realized many people aren't raised the way I was raised. Many people aren't raised the way I was raised, to the point where I may be kind of on the fringes, even though I thought I was normal. And so with that said, I try and look at things of how were they brought up? And so when we talk about these issues and we talk about, somebody celebrating this, I wouldn't. No, I absolutely wouldn't. I don't care who you are. I mean, I wouldn't mourn Hitler, but I certainly wouldn't go out and, celebrate Hitler even. It's just not my way. That is a heartbeat that died. And as bad as that heartbeat was, it's still a heartbeat that died.
A Jewish guy over here would say, I'm okay with Hitler dying.
Well, I'm not saying I'm not okay with it. I'm just saying I don't know that I'd go out and like toast marshmallows. You know what I mean? It's just not, I'm not that guy either. I'm not going to go celebrate it. But there are some people out there that's kind of the way they're raised. And I have to be okay with that. It's the hyper violence that would come afterwards. It's the rioting that would come after it. You didn't see anybody rioting for Charlie Kirk.
No, I
But
mean,
George Floyd, I mean, let's face it, we need bricks delivered to glass buildings.
yeah, George Floyd, $2 billion of damage. And let's be honest, George Floyd died because he had 2.5 to 3 times the amount of fentanyl to
I,
kill somebody. And on top of that, he had meth, he had pot, he had all
I,
sorts of drugs. Charlie Kirk, I think the only violence I have seen, the absolute only violence I've seen, some guy on a bike rode through a vigil screaming some things I'm not going to repeat, and some guys went off and beat him up. Beyond that,
but if I
uh,
remember correctly, Charlie denounced that and said that that was absolutely wrong.
correct,
Charlie did not do that.
correct.
The only thing I've seen that would be violent, quote unquote, in that they've even been able to, and keep in mind, they follow him like crazy and recorded everything they could find about him, is he lost his temper once. And if you watch the whole video, that guy was really pushing a lot of buttons and working hard to tick him off.
What do you think should happen to the assassin?
I'm really torn. I'm really torn because the only two options, in my opinion, are life without parole and the death penalty. And by death penalty, I mean go straight to the front of the line, use the Texas Express Pass that they have, and he goes straight to the front of the line, no appeals, no nothing. And those are the only two things I feel that are valid here. And before I say which one I want, I'll explain why. If you want to live, if that's your goal, you really want to live, you committed this murder, your unaliveness, and you want a platform for that. You want to be famous. You want to stand up there. You want to be able to write things. You want to be in prison and be able to write books and have documentaries made about you and all this stuff, because that's what really makes you feel special. I say we send you straight to the firing squad. If you're one of those guys that's like, hey, I was willing to die the minute I pulled that trigger, you're the guy I want to lock up in a cell for the rest of your life.
I told you earlier today, I am hugely conflicted. On one hand, I think he deserves the gas. On the other hand, I think he needs a public hang. And I can't decide which I think he actually deserves.
I think Charlie would tell you the public hanging is the wrong one.
My point being, I'm sorry, this guy, there's only one thing to do with a guy like this. Because if this guy does not deserve the ultimate punishment, nobody does. This was laying in wait. This was planned. This is first degree. We have the guy. The evidence is going to be there. They have prints like palm prints and not handprints, palm prints and shoulder prints and things like that.
Yeah, they have forearm, palm, and if he loaded those rounds with a ungloved hand, they have skin cells.
Yeah. So basically, I think only that is the only thing that can happen. What I really think is part of the problem is the left. They're going out, they're calling people fascist, they're calling people Nazi. Where do you go from there? And then, if anything's said back, they say, oh, wait, we need to tone it down. The left has become so extreme. So many people in the Democrat Party have gone to the Republican Party or just gone independent. All you're left with in the Democrat Party is the radicals. I just want to throw one thing out. We're not going to do a commercial this time, but we just got some brand new equipment from Conservative Peaches. We're not going to do a commercial today just because of the seriousness of the topic, but we do want to thank Conservative Peaches for the sponsorship and for the support.
Yes. And if you're going to have peaches, they should be conservative ones.
Absolutely. Is there anything else we missed on this?
I think we're good.
You think we're good on this one?
I think we're good.
Sometimes, we could go on forever, and sometimes there's nothing left to say.
I do have one more thing I want to say.
Oh, no, I will. I do want to throw one more thing in.
Okay.
I do.
Apparently, we both have one more thing to say.
We did get a couple comments. I put out, when I heard about it, a Yisker. It was the Jewish prayer for the dead. And at the very end, I did say that you and I, we believe he was with Jesus, and that he's with his Lord and Savior. And some people, gave me comments about, as a Jew who is not Christian, how could I do that? Well, we did that one because you're Christian, I'm Jewish,
Yep.
but out of respect for Charlie. And I truly hope in my heart that, he is with God, whatever form God may be, because he was a good man. Violence is never the answer and should never be used except for a couple of situations: protect your own life, to protect the lives of others, and to protect your property. And beyond that, this violence needs to stop. Well, the dangerous part about Charlie and why the left is so upset by it. You go back 10 years ago, just 10 years ago, and college age students were on the left. And over the last 10 years, he didn't do it single handedly. There's many people who are part of this movement, but he's moved the needle.
Oh, absolutely.
College age males are conservative, college age females aren't, but college age men are. And the youth of today are the most conservative youth that we've ever had since we've been looking at it because of Charlie and people like him. And that's why the left is so upset.
I have one thing to say. And if you
Okay.
edit this and throw it on the cutting room floor, I'm
All right.
stomping out of here. The one thing I will say is that I told my kids, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I don't care what side of a conflict you're on. I don't care about any of that. I want you as a human being to be outraged and upset that this happened. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care who you believe in. I don't care if you think Trump is the devil or you think Trump is like the fourth or the second coming of God. I don't care. You need to be outraged that a person who purely spoke their mind was for it. And with that, we'll see you at the next stop.